the Countryside Podcasts with Chris Skinner. Before we get going this week, I've had a note from Chris, who's been in hospital for the last few days. He's recovering from his heart operation. He says he's doing well. He feels a little like someone's dropped a hay bale on him. But he says the operation was a success and he's currently recovering at Papworth Hospital, but is hoping to be on the farm very soon. And we'll be back recording more episodes of the podcast as well, I have no doubt. In the meantime, though, here's something we recorded just a few days before Chris went into hospital.
Like Niagara Falls, Chris. That's a sign of a wet winter, isn't it?
Matthew, good morning to you and warm welcome to High Ash Farm. Yes, we're standing at the overflow of High Ash's very large pond or very small lake, whichever you like. It's 1,000 square metres of water surface.
6 months ago, that was only half full, wasn't it?
It was less than that. It did worry me because there's an awful lot of fish species in there. We've got some brown trout in there and lots of rudd as well, with those lovely bright red fins on them. Really attractive fish to have. And on warm summer evenings, they'll all jump out of the water. Both the trout and the rudd will come up to the surface and catch insects off the top. Anyway, this was boiling just a few days ago, right at the end of February. We're standing between a stream and the large area of water, so we got across the stream in a minute, but it just suddenly came to life. It was amazing here, not in daylight hours, but in the hours of darkness on the 27th and the 28th of February, good couple of 3 weeks ago now. Everything suddenly came to life here, and we had best part of 500 frogs and toads emerged from hibernation all around there. There's lots of old tall vegetation for the toads to hibernate in, old rotten tree trunks further down the far end of the lake, and also it's got a muddy bottom which is suitable for the frogs to hibernate in the bottom of the mud or small ponds close to the area. Generally, they'll all head back to the area where they were born. They're quite site faithful, rather like the swallows that visit the farm. And so you were standing just then by the overflow for the lake. It self-fills. It is fed by a stream from one end of it, so there's moving water right through the body of the lake. And I've designed a little waterfall which drops about 3 or 4 feet into the stream, so any surplus waters return. This then travels down westwards until it joins the River Tass, which is sort of just off the western boundary of High Ash Farm. It's a small river. This time of the year it thinks it's the Amazon, so oh, and that's a pigeon cooing in the background. Pigeon
refers us back to a couple of weeks ago,
yes,
the episode when you did the pigeon proud.
Yes, I did. I was quite pleased with that, and we've got a few comments to read out later. Anyway, we've got a bit of...
Are they written in pigeon English?
Yes, they certainly are. Oh, bum bum. We've got a little bit of mountaineering to do now, or rather traversing a small stream. So I'll go across first, because I can still jump like a gazelle. Here we go.
Yes, so we've got to drop down about 4 or 5 feet. And there goes Chris, jumping to the other side, showing how it's done. Let's see if I can be as elegant as that. I'll just take a step.
Well done.
Chris has caught me. I'm there.
Pull you up
I'm
the other
having to
side.
do it one-handed, of course, with the recorder.
Yes, well done. Yes.
That's my bit of exercise for the week.
You can see all around the edge here, there's all leaves and lots of debris laying on the floor, and a good crop of stinging nettles here, which is lovely for these amphibians which we're now going to visit. Let's just walk round. We're now looking at this expanse of water. We just need to walk round a little bit, because frogs and toads will often choose one particular area to spawn in, and that's what's happened this year. An extraordinary year. Overwintering's been very successful. There's not been long periods of frosty weather to sort of harm the population. Most of them survive quite well, even if the pond or the lake gets iced over. They have a survival mechanism down at the bottom. So we're just walking up to where the spawn's been laid.
Well, that's enjoying all the smells on this side of the stream. And this, yes, it really is full up, isn't it? Beautifully full.
Yes, there we are. We've got the sun behind us, and this is where it starts. Frog spawn, toad spawn.
Right, let's have a look here. Right within feet of the bank.
Yeah.
They're very different, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely.
So tapioca pudding on the left there.
Yes.
And that's frog?
The tapioca pudding is the frog spawn, a big gelatinous mass, if you like. There's 2 batches of spawn there, produced by 2 different females. So what happened is the males generally arrive ahead of the females. I managed to get a video camera here and managed to record it, and that will be on High Ash Farm Facebook shortly, so we'll be able to enjoy that. Now, what happens is, as soon as the eggs are laid, they sink to the bottom of the pond, which is rather alarming, and then they absorb water and float up to the top. So that's what happens. And after about 10 days in warm weather, they'll start to hatch out. But because it's been a little bit cooler in the last few days, the spawn is a little bit slower. Each egg is about 1.5 to 2 millimeters in diameter, and then you've got the big jelly mass all the way round each egg. So that's the frog spawn. Males arrive before the females and start croaking, and then the females get attracted to that noise. The larger the frog, the deeper the croak. But generally, when you've got a big, deep croaker, you'll often have 2 or 3 other males nearby, and they'll try and intercept the females before they get. So it turns into the cross between an orgy and a melee is the only way to describe it. It's kind of first come, first served. And so there's no sort of courtship ritual. Literally, a male frog, as soon as the females arrive, will grab the female and put his arms just behind her front legs and squeeze tight, and he's got some special little black patches on his front legs called nupital pads, so he can grip her quite tightly. She then in turn puts her own front legs around her belly and squeezes, and that extrudes the frog spawn. It all happens in the space of a couple of minutes. The frog spawn then sinks to the bottom and then comes back up to the top, which we can see. The little black dots in the jelly then start to grow, usually 10 to 12 days as the first tadpoles emerging from the spawn, but if it's cooler weather it can be 3 or even 4 weeks. Up in the north part of the country, when the tadpoles have emerged, they can even go right through the summer before they change into sort of what we call metamorphosis, going from the tadpole stage to the frog stage. Now if we move a little bit further up, this is even more amazing. Just look at...
Oh, millions.
That is quite right. You've sort of hit the nail on the head there, because there is literally millions. So all I'm going to do is just go down gently on one knee by the water and just pull like this, bail some water towards me, and then eventually...
Oh wow, look at that, strands.
Yeah.
And they're toad spawn.
This is toad spawn. Now, when you put your fingers under the spawn, the little eggs inside the jelly tube can move. So I just brought my finger up under one of the bits of jelly, and there's only 1 or 2 eggs visible. If I put it back in the water, like that, the eggs all join.
It's a beautiful long straight line, isn't it?
Up to 10 feet long per toad, 3 meters. So this then all joins all back together, and there must be millions and millions of eggs.
All little black dots,
Yep.
but surrounded by this gelatinous protection.
Exactly right. So now there are two main species of toad in the UK. This is the common toad, buffo is its scientific name, and then there's another one which actually is quite rare in the UK now. I have seen them down at Dunwich on the Suffolk coast. I've also seen them quite close to the farm here, just on the coast, on the sand dunes at Winterton SSSI, and they're called natterjack toads. And natterjack toad spawn is rather different. Instead of a double row of eggs, which we can see here with this long strand that I've managed to sort of partly clear out of the strand, you can see it's a double row. Can you see?
Yes.
Now, with natterjack toad spawn, it's a single row of eggs without you touching it or anything, so you can tell the difference. And natterjacks are slightly smaller. They lay their spawn quite a bit later, often in sort of coastal regions on sand dunes where you can get little ponds of water, and that's why it's quite hazardous. But both toads, natterjack toads, common toads and frogs are really vulnerable at this time of the year because they can travel quite a distance to get to the point where they were born. They wander out over the year. Once the female has laid her spawn, be it the female toad or the female frog, she legs it. She's kind of had enough of this. If you don't get it right and you have 4 or 5 males trying to mate with you simultaneously, it can cost you your life. And I've seen dead toads in here, female toads, which have been drowned by overzealous sort of batch of males trying to mate simultaneously with her. So it is quite a risky business.
So this journey they make, then they are at risk from us as well in
Yes.
cars, and there are groups of people around here and other parts of the country who will spend their evenings during this period with buckets and
that's
transport
right.
frogs and toads across.
There was a lady that lived in a neighbouring village. She was a livery hare at the farm. Her name was Daphne Hares, and she was known in Trowse, where the village where she lived, as the Toad Lady, because she used to rescue the toads on White Horse Lane. There was a crossing point there that toads had used from the sandy land where there was some rabbit burrows. It's now a solar power field now, but there was sand there and lots of rabbit holes, and the toads used to hibernate in the rabbit warrens and then come out, cross White Horse Lane and visit the lower down part of the River Tass, and Daphne would walk along the road a couple of times in the evening, once quite late at night, with her bucket, rescuing them because they couldn't get across the curb which had been put in by the houses there, and occasionally she'd get the council out to lift the drain covers, and actually they'd hook the toads out from the drain. So
good for her.
Yeah, absolutely. So congratulations to Daphne. And I've still got ladies at the farm here which will go off. I think I had somebody on Toad Watch last week down at Shotsham Common there, near one of the ponds there.
It's only 2 or 3 miles in the other
That's
direction,
right.
isn't it?
But they need all the help we can get, because all over the countryside now, many of the ponds, particularly in the 1960s and 70s, were filled in. We've drained a lot of land, so wet habitats like this, which are absolutely fantastic, are in short supply. Also predation, Matthew, as well. So, you know, it's eaten or be eaten out in the countryside, but particularly I feel sorry for toads and frogs when they first leave their watery environment. They spend 10 to 12 weeks in the tadpole form, and sort of they're vulnerable for that. Dragonfly larvae can eat them, and anything out in the pond, fish will eat them. But out on dry land, you've got herons will gather small frogs, even mating frogs. They'll have a frenzy. Otters will come in here as well and eat frogs and toads.
So all that explains why there are so many here,
Yes.
millions, because millions won't survive.
No, that's right. If you get from, we are literally looking at millions of eggs here. There's hundreds of metres of spawn here, particularly of the toads this
Look
year.
at this bubbly spawn here.
Yes,
What is
I know.
that, Chris?
That's just growing because the sun here is hatching out the tadpoles much quicker on the top of the spawn than in the water bit underneath. So that's what's happening. It looks absolutely beautiful, looks like diamonds there, and you can actually see the elongated little tadpoles just in the spawn there. And so as they grow, they will ingest the spawn. That's part of their nutrition, almost like the albumin of an egg, if you like. They then absorb that. They have this tail, which eventually they'll reabsorb, and they'll leave here in about June, July, as tiny little froglets, complete, sometimes with a bit of a tail, about the size of your thumbnail. And then they'll spend the rest of the year out on dry land. So for them, it's the first 12 weeks in the watery environment, and the rest of the year out in the habitat around it. Tall grass is brilliant for them, nettles, any tall undergrowth around the perimeter of the pond here. And they'll all leave often in the course of a day or two. And we have walked past here and actually seen the ground almost heaving with young froglets and toads. Difficult to tell apart. Frogs in general, when they're out on the ground, will jump. Toads tend to have a rather more sedate walk on longer legs. Toads often have little warts on their back, so they're sort of a bit bumpy. And toads, female toads, are quite large as well, and the males are often a bit smaller. So lovely, but just great to have them there. Look at that. That looks like an erupting mountain of spawn over there.
That looks like, yes, like washing up water bubbles.
Raised up about 2 inches above the rest of the spawn.
And look at these strings of pearls.
Yes,
here.
that's right. Now, they're infertile eggs. Can you see there's
They're
occasional white ones in there?
Yeah, and that reminds me of pearls.
That's right. Yeah, that's
small.
good description. And they're not fertile. Remember, when that amplexus happens, which is when the male frog grips the female round and squeezes tightly, that sort of mating position, which happens just when the female's exuding her spawn, is called amplexus. The male frog, who's mounted on the female, releases sperm at the exact moment that she's ovulating and laying the spawn, and so not all the spawn is always fertile. So that with the toad spawn, you can actually see white dots occasionally along the string, which you described as a string of pearls. But in between all the fertile you might be able to reach over and
there are some fertile ones.
It's inches deep, this spawn. Yeah. So you must have got 10 to 15 fertile ones, and then 2 or 3 infertile ones, and they're the white ones in there. So I've had to learn all this. It's just amazing though, and it's all part of that tapestry of wildlife which makes just studying nature so great all the year round. It's here 365 days a year in all sorts of different forms, but most of the year the reptiles and amphibians, which frogs and toads are not here present. And in another pond on a farm, the newts, which live in the farmyard, we've got great crested newt and common newt, smooth newt, have chosen another pond to braid their eggs in amongst the reeds, and absolutely fantastic. And suddenly, for no reason at all, I used to go down each evening with a torch and check them about 9:30 and see them, and then suddenly they disappeared and they've all gone off for the same reason, to sort of enjoy the mating session just once a year.
It's
so,
what you always say, Chris, if you want wildlife and you want it quick,
yeah,
just have some water.
Yeah, that's the best way of establishing a new habitat. Look at this, the sun's come on it. To me, it's, you know, it's like a little bed of diamonds here. I couldn't want anything better, and it makes me smile, makes me feel, I don't know, makes me feel wealthy and healthy all in one go.
And this finds its way here by itself.
Yes, absolutely. I've just given it the chance by having a watery environment, and then later on in a few weeks' time we'll have swallows diving over the top. On hot days in June, when the swifts are here, they'll have a drink from here as well. It's such a sight. So one of the easiest habitats to create, even in a garden situation. You can have frogs and toads in the area. They will smell the water at the right time of year and come and visit, and you'll have your own wildlife haven outside your door.
Tapioca pudding for dinner.
Oh, and there we go. Yeah, school dinners. That brings back a memory.
It's a lovely sight of a roe deer there, Chris.
Matthew, that was a sight and a half, showing, I think it's a roe, it's the doe. She was showing her white bottom off with alarm, raised all the hairs on the tail end, and we'll now go out on one of the fields of overwinter wild bird seed mix, and because it's March, I just feel we should just touch on hares before the end of the month. The mad March hares, of course, and always very entertaining at High Ash, and you can often get a good view at this time of the year as the cover starts to dry down this time of the year. So we'll head off there now and see what we can see.
Another deer, Chris.
Matthew, right by the truck.
That's only 20 yards away.
Yeah, that's a young roe buck. Yes. And I think that's got an injury. It's a bit stiff on the back end. It's all right. It's walking normally, but when it tried to run, I should think it's been clipped on the road, that one. And it's only, 25 yards from us. It's got velvet on its antlers, and it's just cleaning itself. No, it seems completely all right. So doesn't take any further action. We've had to dispatch a couple of deer in recent months at the farm. I don't do it now, but get somebody in if they've been hit and wounded with a broken leg or seriously injured, then we dispatch them out of kindness and love. But that's cracking young roebuck. It just looks a bit stiff at the back end, the way it's walking away from us.
It's frighteningly common, cars hitting deer.
Absolutely, no. I mean, most get killed, if you hit at sort of anything above 30 miles an hour. It's unlikely to survive. But that's a beautiful, beautiful animal. Dark coat, as you can see at this time of the year, and then the coat will come out and it'll be much lighter for the summer months, almost red at certain times. Just passing an oak tree with an owl box in it. Good place to look for owl pellets under there. But we've just arrived now at it's about 25-acre field. It's 10 hectares and it's overwinter wild bird seed mix. And the reason we got such a wonderful view of the deer is, as I mentioned earlier, the cover at this time of the year dies right down. We can open our windows. Rats being very well behaved, and because it's March, we're just going to pop on here. It's just dry enough for us to drive on without doing any harm at all. Wind is blowing a little bit, sun's just coming out, so we may be lucky and just be able to see what we call mad March hares. They're not really mad. They won't thank me for calling them that. Nice patch of red dead nettle there showing up. Oh, it's all over in front of us. The field's quite pink in front of us. So we can just zigzag down the field, and the hares won't sort of spring up until the very last moment.
They're often down in their seat, aren't they?
Yes, they're masters of camouflage. So hopefully we'll come across one and just celebrate the end of March before it slips away into April with the sight of a hare.
We have done a hare census on this field before, haven't we? And the numbers relatively recently are healthy.
Yes, absolutely. In the past, I have a 200-metre length of quite thick rope, and I can pop that on the back of the truck and drive round in a very large circle, and it generally just brushes over the top of all the food that's left here, and just enough to startle the hares. And
there we go.
Yes, first one. Yeah,
at 12 o'clock there.
That's going. Skylark just come out in front of us. That one's another one on your left.
Oh, there.
Yes.
The long body, the ears up.
Yes, and beautiful. That sort of golden tawny coat. And if you do get a really close look at one, it's squatted down,
which we have.
Absolutely perfect.
Ears on the back.
Whiskers, ears hard back on the head, sun shining on it. It's frozen absolutely gone stationary. It's about 20 yards. If I just move a bit more, you can see the sun on those long sensitive whiskers. There it is, just loping away now. Perfect, absolutely fantastic animals to have on the farm. So don't regard them as a pest. Skylark just got up. 2, 3, 4 skylark. But lovely to have them here. They reckon damage that hare does to growing crops, you need about 6 hares to eat about as much as 1 sheep. So when we did that hare census here at Hares Farm, and I got to 72 hares at the farm here, of which we must have seen about 12 on this particular field. They're all over the farm, sort of spread quite equally. Again, the males, most of the year, are quite solitary, and at this time of the year, the females, or the gills, start to come into season, and you'll often see one gill being chased by several male hares, which are called jacks. The skylark got up again.
One of the most delightful and evocative sounds of the English countryside, Chris, the song thrush.
Yes, it's one of the success stories here at the farm. We've got quite a number of them nesting here, and it's one of the UK's most competent songsters singing away for us.
Just one of the sounds that you can hear regularly on this podcast.
And we've got a little favour to ask. If you can possibly help by sending us a donation to help support the running costs of the podcast by visiting hiresfarm.com/podcast.
And thank you for all your donations. Lots of birds here swarming around up there.
Yes. Oh, look there.
That.
Oh, wow. Hadn't seen that. They were against the dark sky and they're going to settle down.
Are they starlings?
No, they're linnets.
Linnets.
Linnets. Just bobbing across the top. And then a skylark just coming out. Another hare gone out in front of us.
The linnets.
Yeah, look at that. I just stopped the track.
Yes, they're not flying in such an organised way as starlings.
No, they're just bobbing over and then turn the engine off. They're coming around us. There's more than 50 there. Some have already dropped down, more have gone down, so the flock's diminishing in size. Skylark right beside us. 2, 3 of them. Just check it. 4. Yes, checking us out.
There are dozens on this field, aren't
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and look at that. The linnets have all but disappeared now, all gone down into the crop to eat the small seeds. So.
Oh, another skylark.
Yeah, skylark there.
Getting that lovely sound.
That wasn't a skylark. That was a bunting, one of the largest species. 2 skylarks on our left. That was a corn bunting we just saw, and skylark displaying. You can see the corn bunting was almost larger than the sky. One flying right up against the windscreen. Look at this. Oh, wow. Just checking us out. 2 right beside us, and you can see the white tail feathers.
Just 10 yards away.
Less than
It's
that,
the benefit
probably.
of being in the car, isn't it?
Yes, look, we've come into their habitat and they're flying up towards us again. 1, 2, 3, right in front. Wonderful. And this time of the year, they will form flocks. They're also pairing up now, which is why you see these groups forming. And like many of the birds, they'll form sort of small flocks at this time of the year. Great for feeding, because at this time of the year we're still in what's called the hungry gap. Seeds haven't yet been produced in 2026, so they're relying on anything dropping on the ground. Skylarks will eat seeds. That corn bunting we saw is the same, and we have a reed bunting here as well, and of course my favourite bunting, which we haven't yet visited, which is perhaps for a future podcast, is when the yellowhammers flock up. They still haven't started to flock yet, and it can be as much as May before they start breaking up their flocks, and we had a couple of hundred here last year in one flock. Just extraordinary. I managed to video them. But that was lovely, just to catch up with those hares. I don't feel I can leave Marsh without... I think I must be slightly related to the hares, slightly mad.
Have we got a kestrel up there as well?
Yes, look at that, hovering right in front of the car, 200 yards away. This is a large field. drive straight.
This is brilliant for wildlife.
It is. It's a lazy way. Oh, look
the
at that
linnets.
on your left side. Linnets galore coming up. Red list species, greatly declined farmland species. And the kestrel is doing what kestrels do. We're driving up towards it. We won't go right underneath. Again, like the red kite we saw previous week, that lovely sort of russet red on the back, that's the male flying there, just swooping round, just looking for quarry to catch. That's what we call a roving flight, and it's just going to perch up in that oak tree, have a little rest, because hovering in a strong-ish wind, which we have this morning, takes a lot of energy. Oh, Rat's just looked out. I just looked in the mirror of the car and saw a hare running behind the car. We missed that one. Yeah, so lovely. No, it's a lazy way, but we can't do this very often during the year. It's often too wet, particularly the winter we've had. And I didn't really want to have to call Daniel getting up towards lunchtime to say, can you come and pull us out? There's another deer. That's Chinese water deer in front of us.
Bounding
Big
off.
Teddy bear ears.
Two?
Bounding away. Two of them. Why have one when you can have two? Magpie, just come out.
The point is, though, if we were standing in the field rather than sitting in the car, then the birds would be miles away from us.
Particularly with the hares, you'd walk almost right past them. They're so well camouflaged. They hunker down right close to the ground, and you just can't see them. You need a really experienced eye, particularly when there's tall vegetation like this that there is left on the field. There we are, a little taster of wildlife at this time of the year, getting up to the end of March. Really lucky. As I said, I can't leave March alone without including a hare.
They're perfectly sane. Your hares, aren't they?
They certainly are. They know where to live and they know where to be safe. Beautiful, beautiful mammals.
Let's have a look through some of the correspondence for the Countryside podcasts. And Tina Woods. Hello to you, Tina. Well, it's a question that we can refer back to the start of this podcast, because Tina says, it's a gorgeous afternoon here in Kent, near Canterbury, Goodenston Park. Toads galore. 45 pairs counted. Wonderful numbers to see. And look at their spawn ribbons. And there's a photograph here of the spawn there. There's a toad there.
Toad there. Look under the water, though. Can you see that outline under there?
There's two
partially
more.
Camouflaged, 4 in the picture. And there, exactly what we've just been talking about, as toad spawn with the double line. So it's the common toad you've got the nesting there, not the natterjack, which is smaller with a little yellow stripe down the centre of its back. So well done and thank you for that.
And Tina's going to come to the farm in May.
Oh, right. Good. Excellent. Yes.
Now, Chris, this is Chris Biggin, says, the wood pigeon, one of my favourite birds. I put wheat down in my garden every morning, and I love to see them along with collared doves feeding. Their song is the sound of summer. Their explosion in numbers over the years is surely to do with farmers growing crops all the year. There isn't a starvation period now, and this would have been a time when their numbers would have reduced naturally during the winter. It's like putting bird feeders in your garden and then moaning about the sparrowhawk visiting.
Yes, I've covered that a few times before. And you're quite right. Now there's food available really all the year round. Farmers, particularly in the last 20, 25 years, have started growing winter oilseed rape, which is part of their food. It's one of those crucifer plants, little petals of the plant when it comes into flower in the form of a cross, and therefore it's a brassica in this case, and that's why pigeons have got a food source all the year round. Yes, so well done. Thank you for that observation.
Yeah, and Chris, I think, was listening to the podcast a few weeks back where you went through all the different pigeon species. And Chris says, when I was a head gardener at Clifton Castle, now retired, one of the first spring songs in the woods around the garden was the stock dove, calling all day long. A few years ago, I put up a barn owl nest box in a shed on the estate, and for several years, each time I visited,
a stock dove came out of the nest box.
Yes, exactly right. Yes, and stock doves are called stock doves because the base of the trees from years ago, particularly the old elm trees, were called stocks, the main part of the trunk, and stock doves nest in holes in trees. Rather unusual for the species of pigeons.
Here's an email from Cora, who loves the podcast and what you do, Chris. She says, I've been meaning to thank you for the beautiful photo of High Ash Farm, thanking me for your lovely birthday card, which had drawings of wildflowers on the front. On the envelope you said, you'll love the clouded yellow, the violet, sandfoin, etc. At first I puzzled who this envelope could be from, and then I burst out laughing when I found out. I didn't have a clue about any of the flowers, and it was wonderful researching them on the internet. So thank you, says Cora.
Yes, it was lovely. So nice to inspire somebody to research nature a little bit further on than what you see at face value.
Anyone who's received correspondence from you, Chris, will know that you like to write little things in margins and
yes,
on
I do.
envelopes.
Yes, I was a horror at school for doing that. Yes. Usually it's to cover up the crosses I got from the teacher rather than the tick. Yes.
And here's one from Julian and Nikki, our friends at Halesworth, who we mentioned last week.
Yes.
And they said they visited High Ash Farm and had a picnic lunch and a good walk. Bumped into you as well.
Yes, they did. I did mention it on the previous podcast. I popped them in one of the bird hides, but before that they did a list of what they'd seen, and almost the list is too long to mention, but I noticed at the end here they saw buzzard, red kite, sparrowhawk and kestrel, hares, monkjack deer and a stoat as well.
Oh.
Brimstone and comma butterflies, peacock and a red admiral butterfly. Lovely day in a lovely place in spring. Perfect, says the email.
I think that was one of the first warm days without much wind,
Yes,
wasn't it?
it
They took
was.
advantage of that.
That was perfect for them.
Oh, and here's another one from Tina Woods, who further to her toad email has sent some photographs of bees, the bumblebees. Many of them enjoying diving into the sweetness of daffodils and camellias in the park. I spotted my first brimstone and commas as well, butterflies. I can imagine you'd be immersing yourself in a world of beautiful birdsong and sunshine delights if you lived here.
Yes, absolutely stunning photographs there, taken with your camera and sent to us via the email. And what you've got there is a buff-tailed bumblebee. It's going to be a queen. It's a female, obviously, and she will have been the only ones from the last year's nest where she flew from. Fertilised in the autumn, and hopefully she'll be laying eggs. Her husband will be long since dead. He will have died last autumn, and female queens are the only ones that survive over the winter months. So almost feel sorry for the male bumblebee who won't see his own offspring, because he'll be deceased from a long time ago in bee life. But really lovely to see the pictures you've sent there. And it's another one you can help, because bumblebees in particular and many of the solitary bee species are in quite sharp decline still. We hope for a better year this year. It's been a good winter, not too long, not protracted cold weather, but it has been extraordinarily wet, which can affect their hibernation. People are surprised that bumblebees will often hibernate underground down an old mouse burrow, and if it gets full of water, that can mean fatality for the hibernating queen bee. So there we are. So it's a risky business, hibernation. When you can't move, you're stuck in one spot. Obviously it applies to hedgehogs and bats as well, but bumblebees, quite surprising that they spend our winter fast asleep, as many of the butterfly species do as well. So thank you for all that correspondence. It says best wishes to me, Gudgin and Rat. Love it.
Well, thanks to you all for wonderful messages, questions, comments, anything you like. Keep them coming in, and we'll have another episode of the Countryside Podcast very soon here in the heart of Norfolk, just outside the fine city of Norwich, on High Ash Farm, which has been Chris's home since the year dot.
Yes, and I love it. I've got a little sign up as you leave Norwich saying High Ash Farm and an arrow on it. It's right on Norwich Ring Road saying fine walking for a fine city. And exactly that.
And
Keep the questions coming, as I say, but also a big thank you to everyone who contributes with donations to keep the podcast going. We couldn't do it without you, so thanks.
Yes, and from me as well. Thank you very much.